this. I think the Keel, the BJ, these are all extremely kind of like America's favored champions, and it kind of matches their style. They're not afraid to throw down. cha1n, always been known as one of those fast, high-octane players. He has developed more of a sense of style over the course of Pro League, by all means. Let's not forget, once upon a time, cha1n was said by a lot of people to be, second best in all of Americas. He had a real breakout performance. That said, it was some time ago, and I don't think we quite have the same cha1n at the moment. I'd love to see him return, Flea.
Now what we do have is vengeurR, who seems absolutely lethal. What a start to the match. Rocket into 2 rails and then just a little tickle to finish it off. vengeurR, murderous intent, I think, describes that first encounter. Now he does give up the mega to cha1n, but cha1n doesn't have an LG to work with. Ends up taking a lot of damage. Luckily, that heavy champion stack will keep him serviceable. He can still take fights. As now both players are kind of gearing up for the next major item. There's very little time in between the two of them, and vengeurR is now very well aware that he's got the upper hand. He knows that he's got a stack advantage, got the positional advantage too, isn't going to let cha1n get out. Oh, that one grenade, that is so bad. If that hadn't knocked him down, I think that vengeurR would have an easy time just setting up on heavy already, then looping back around to mega, but that unfortunate pineapple sent him down into the acid, and that is helping cha1n out a lot right now.
It did kind of just delay everything, didn't it? Giving cha1n a chance to just lick his wounds and pick up the stuff that he needed to pick up. However, there is still enough of a delay between these two items on a map this small that vengeurR... Oh, never mind! I was about to say, there's a good chance that maybe he'd be able to get both items, and then before he can even grab the heavy, cha1n just rails him right off there, and lovely change of momentum, if you ask me.
That would have been beautiful if it had worked for vengeurR. Throwing the orb up, picking up heavy, orbing all the way to the top, and then securing mega as well would have been a brilliant play from a very, very precarious position, but didn't quite pan out that way, and it allowed cha1n to get the first frag on the board for this map.
Heavy definitely going to be this next objective. The question is how much damage you're able to get. Answer, pretty much nothing. I think vengeurR trying to play this quite safe at the moment. You know you're going up against someone with an unreasonably high stack, plus all those pineapples on top. Not a fight that you're going to win. And vengeurR, was he really 7 seconds early on mega?
He was. He sure was. A very rare occurrence for a player of his caliber to completely get the timing wrong right there, but no. Put himself in perhaps the most vulnerable position on the map. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He was just banking on the item spawning on time, but it didn't. Oh, nice little flick by cha1n straight up for the verti rail. And now vengeurR, once again, caught desperately, but doing a surprising amount of damage right there. The super shotgun works well against a big body like Keel. And cha1n was left with just 25 points of health.
Even with that light armor, it's not the most favorable of circumstances. That said, vengeurR just spawning only really had a few weapons to his name, so he's not going to want to push into that rather vulnerable position down there near mega. At the same time, here come the rails. vengeurR really stuck between a rock and a hard place. How are you going to escape this one, mate? Answer, you don't. It really was checkmate. One of the worst positions to be in. Now, cha1n doesn't quite get the heavy here. It's actually going to completely remove any delay between these two items. If cha1n was able to pick up that heavy first time round, he'd have got both items. That sucks. Never mind. Oosh.
I think a big thing what's going on right here is cha1n's railgun accuracy. cha1n has 90% railed right now.
Yeah, I just
and that is as him playing the bigger, easier to hit champion, right? He should not be coming out on top in these railgun fights. These long distance engagements should always go in vengeur's favor, and yet still cha1n somehow is making it very competitive.
I do, however, really like that turnaround from vengeurR. Oh, but I like that combo even more. Give me that pineapple. And then the rail, which continues on. I was saying, what kind of cha1n are we getting today? I think the answer is a pretty damn efficient one so far.
I hope he can keep it up, though. little worried that when the rail, or if the rail stops hitting, that cha1n might start falling apart. Really hope he doesn't. But so far, beating vengeurR in these rail engagements that he shouldn't has been kind of instrumental to him getting this lead. Now Heavy's about to spawn. vengeurR is in no position to make a move for it. Might still try to deny it, but he just doesn't have the stack to remain competitive in this situation. It will be cha1n picking it up. Decent amount of damage dealt by the Italian Stallion, though. cha1n is definitely the one with the better stack, but not to the extent that he can just bully his opponent around. He still has to be careful right now.
So far, the game of patience. Nice little turnaround rail right as vengeurR goes through that door, picks up a light armor, and it's pretty much instantly nullified. And cha1n having the more favorable parts of the map so far. Here comes that heavy. It's not a heavy that vengeur's going to be able to immediately pick up. I think that goal of getting damage first. I love the position too, because if he just dropped down there, that was going to be a juggle all day, every day. But no heavy for you. Eat this rail, sir.
Stopped clean in his tracks. Heavy's still up. Oh, vengeurR.
Oh no.
Not quite sure what he was going for with that orb, because all he has is the rail, so surely you don't want to be within touching distance of a Keel, who has every weapon plus the grenades. I don't know. Was he hoping to just take away the heavy first, or really not sure what the battle plan was
so
there.
far away from the heavy. It just couldn't have looked like a mistimed input, because like unless his finger straight up missed the key, I don't see that being the don't know, but what we do know are the consequences, Flea. And the consequences right now is a sizable lead for cha1n, and the stack is even greater. vengeurR has a lot of work to do if he wants to win this first map. Is this just going to be the day of Americas today? Is that what we're looking at, Flea?
It might very well be. So far, they have been strong. Promise getting a win. And now, cha1n starting off very convincingly as well. Oh, look at these rails. Beautiful. Liking the position there, too, from cha1n. Pushing out a bit, just trying to force a more favorable spawn. vengeurR will make way with the heavy, but he's got nowhere to run. He has to burn the orb for it, and all he's got to work with is the railgun, so cha1n knows that he's easy pickings after that. And when you're already 6 frags down, I don't know about that. This is quickly starting to become an insurmountable lead for cha1n.
He's just had this perfect hold on where vengeurR is, what vengeur's going to do. Every time vengeur's going to be going for something, it's really because cha1n has simply allowed it to happen. I think for a good 5 minutes, it almost felt like that whole mega near heavy area, he just set up shop there, man. Just put a tent up, you know, and lit a little bonfire and cooked some fish.
I think with how defensive we know cha1n can play these games, this is going to be borderline impossible from vengeurR. He needs to just be hitting so much right now. That's a start. It is a start. There we go. cha1n goes for the peak.
However, though,
cha1n is
Flea,
just banking on having enough time.
Definitely worried about, though, Flea, is on top of the delayed spawns that we're already starting to see from cha1n, is he gives himself a bit of information fresh off spawn. He's going to start with a gigantic stack every time. So that work that vengeur's going to have to do, it's just simply amplified. And even now, one good rocket like that to nullify the stack that he's built himself up, it just undoes so much hard work in a situation that vengeurR would not only have to secure a frag now, but be healthy enough to push on and get even more against a Keel that's going to spawn with probably more stack than you have. Now, I do like that rocket jump, you know, one of the more, I think, unpredictable ways. Now, with that miss, oh, and the 100 on top, that one rocket might even be the one that wins this map. I mean, that creates a situation for vengeurR that's just going to waste time. Gets a frag now, but 45 seconds for 4 frags against Keel. I don't know about that, Flea.
cha1n's way of just delaying the spawns and always putting himself near a choke point, knowing that if vengeurR will push him, he will be able to deal a good amount of damage. So even if he starts bleeding frags right now, what he's aiming for is to deal enough damage, inflict so much pain that vengeurR can't just relentlessly charge him off spawn time and time again. And it looks like it won't even come to that. cha1n gets himself yet another frag, and that will be the end of the Maestro comeback. cha1n doing Canada proud in his first map of the day. Maestro not looking too good today. We were talking about this being a heyday earlier for Dragonborn Esports, right? And now Maestro off to an iffy start, it seems.
I mean, I don't even want to know what the chat room's going to say if this series goes in favor of cha1n, because they were already arguing when Dramis won, you know, and this is going to times it by 1,000,000, I think. You know, I think I'll just keep that window unpopped, perhaps. But so far, it's a great showing from cha1n. Got to give him all the credit in the world. His damage was really good. The items he held, phenomenal control over them throughout most of that map. You know, looking at a lot of these kills too. Just look at where cha1n is every time he's getting the frag. He's always here. He's always near Mega. He's always in position for it. There were some uncharacteristic errors from vengeurR. I think particularly that orb near Heavy. I think we're both trying to figure out what on earth the plan was there, but ultimately cha1n led by a commanding amount of frags, and he played that defensive game to perfection right at the end, on top of some extra spice, like right there, rail into grenade. Love to see it. Oh, love it.
I just love how that rail just stopped him, you know, dead in his strikes, flying towards Heavy, but nope, shut down. Now, of course, vengeurR, he is young, right? It was just a moment ago that he was a sprightly 19-year-old up-and-comer, but still, he is one of the most energetic players in the league, to be sure, and he's a resistant one. He's got that resilience working in his favor. Map 1, okay, didn't go his favor. Let's try map 2. He's got movement advantage over his opponent this time around, running the Strock and Beaker versus the BJ Uncorrupted Keep. No railgun to worry about either, right? And we saw just how effectively cha1n used that weapon. So this could be very different and might favor vengeurR a lot more.
Yeah, I was really about to say a lot of the same things. The rail was instrumental for cha1n to play the way he wanted to, and then you chuck the pineapples on top of that. You know, such a wonderful feature of Keel is that normally you fire the rail, you're vulnerable during the cooldown. Keel is not one of those characters because he's able to fire grenades in between it, and we saw that so much throughout the course of the map. Both of those elements he's not going to have here. The lack of the rail means that vengeurR is going to be able to rely on that ferocity, the pace, and we've seen what crouch sliders can do when it comes to holding both items on a map this small. You don't really need to have particularly good execution to be able to slide and pick up both in a matter of seconds, and someone of this caliber, they're going to take it. But how does vengeurR keep his head on his shoulders? He does historically do well when the chips are down, when he's under pressure. Yep. This could very well be a 1-to-1. If it was a 2-0, I would be shocked, because it would just be a weird day, wouldn't it?
Even after that first map, I would still favor vengeurR in this matchup, so I do suspect that he will tie it up, but cha1n was out of his mind with that railgun. He's lacking it now, but hopefully for his sake, he can kind of transfer that energy to one of the many other weapons still available to him and continue that momentum that he's got. And we are starting it off on the perspective of vengeurR, who is immediately trying to get some damage in. Peeker won't really go anywhere. Rockets won't connect with much either. And look at how long Heavy is being delayed. Risky play from vengeurR here. Might miss out on the item. Deals a fair bit of damage. Okay, that makes up for it.
The moment you see LG from a knockup, if the opponent doesn't have much weapons, I get so nervous. What do you do apart from just sit there, sing a song, and accept your fate?
I love the rocket jump that vengeurR went for, though. He's one of the few players who consistently goes for the horizontal rocket jumps just to get more speed. And it's a good thing that he did, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do as much damage on Heavy as he did. Looks like in the end, played off in his favor. Loving the spawn management there too.
I was just about to say, that looked like some manipulation to me, Flea. Dirty stuff.
Few steps back, and there he goes. cha1n spawns right into his clutches. Didn't get a frag out of it, but should do so now. And vengeurR is off to a great start.
But this is one of the extra layers that surely would make a champion like Strog lethal on this map, because if movement alone is able to influence some of these spawns, just a little circle jump into a crouch slide and you can go pretty much wherever you want. We saw that from vengeurR just now. He tried to stand in another situation to perhaps maybe even bait out the nail spawn run, and he was there instantly. It's terrifying to deal with, certainly, and 4-0. Look at how quickly he can go from one part of the map to another. Perfect play so far.
I like what I'm seeing coming from vengeurR right now. fearless plays, constant aggression, and trusting his own skill fully. Just completely over the first map. He wants to, you know, prove his worth once again. He says, yeah, I lost that first one, but let me show you what I can really do. Let me remind you why I was the grand champion of the Quake World Championships last season, and bring it back.
You ever play one of those old beat-em-up arcade games where you fight a boss and then when you take on the life bar, like another life bar appears and it's a different color?
That's exactly what vengeur's going for right now.
Just a bit of a... And there you go. Double the size now, sorry. But now 2.5 minutes in, 4-0. Now vengeurR looking incredibly comfortable and enough of a lead now that he is able to just stalk his prey. I mean, just look at the way that he's walking around the middle of this map. He's just listening for those footsteps. Springing the traps, catching cha1n off guard. cha1n, he has to move around. What can he do? Oh, doesn't get the kamikaze. And a good rocket from cha1n, actually. That might disengage just a little bit.
Yeah, that could have gone very differently if he had landed the peeker charge right there and dodged that rocket a bit better. But the way it turned out, he was forced to just give up the mega completely unchallenged. And that is going to help out cha1n. But good reads from vengeurR. Fair bit of heavy machine gun damage now dropping down in his blind spot. cha1n was not ready for that at all. Had his eyes set on the heavy. That's not where vengeurR dropped from. Now things have slowed down a fair bit though. I like that decision from vengeurR. You might watch it back and go like, man, why didn't he just, you know, pick up mega right there? He was right there. Well, vengeurR didn't have exact timing because he had to give it up previously. So he played that safe, didn't just jump on it and wait, but instead just gave it up just to keep in control rather than maybe throw away a frag. And it's working out nicely.
I also strongly believe that I can't be the only person that saw that instant peeker activation straight up tank that direct rocket. That was a nice little moment right there. Ooh. Narrowly, rocket does not connect, and vengeurR keeping a comfortable lead and running away with it. It has just been his ability to stay all the way on top of cha1n. You quite rightly pointed out that the pace has slowed down a little bit, but it's not doing much to change the outcome. As now heavy continues, the control over these items. I mean, the entire map, cha1n has only picked up one heavy. He's had 3 megas as well. I mean, he has not had much of it at all, but vengeurR's constant access to the armor, and they're both medium champions, right? That is a rather significant advantage. And when cha1n does pick up armor, it's because vengeurR wants him to do it. It means he's keeping you on the end of a leash. You're where he wants you to be.
Gotta love those rockets from earlier too. Just blazing into the room, landing both of them. vengeurR. Very well known for his rockets, of course. The game has slowed down a fair bit though, right? We saw an explosion in those first 2 minutes, but now both players a bit more patience being brought to the table. vengeurR, rather than just chasing in, trying to set up a few more traps. He knows that if he messes up and just gives full control to cha1n, allows him to get into the groove of things, he is still at risk of losing this map. So he's playing it much more controlled right now.
And we're going right back into it. One nicely placed rocket. Awesome, good LG, just like that, and cha1n goes back to square one. This is not a fun position to be in. Still significant time until that heavy spawns. cha1n licking his wounds with those lights, but there's no armor in sight. Say goodbye. Does manage to deal with the peeker, so he survives by an extra few seconds. But right now, he's so low. I mean, surely vengeurR's going to be happy to just keep him there. I've taken the major items. I know when the timing is going to be. I know that there's not much left on this map, and I've got 7-0 up on you. Stay weak. I don't care.
I'm seeing so much from Rafa in vengeurR right now, especially in that last engagement. As you were talking about, right? He doesn't push just to get the frag, knowing that there's sometimes better decisions to be made. Instead of dropping onto cha1n, even though he heard that pain scream coming out from the BJ, He was like, okay, well, you can stay on that side of the map where there's 0 resources, because I'm going to take away the small armor first and then go on to heavy. Because if he had contested further, if he had gone straight for heavy, there was a chance that cha1n would have picked up the small armor, and that's the last thing that vengeurR wanted. So just very patiently culling his opponent's stack, keeping him in that almost defenseless position for later, thinking several steps ahead. And this is beautiful to watch right now.
If we look at this current situation, even as the lead gets greater and greater for the Italian, ultimately, if cha1n has to work his backside off just to get 1 frag, what are his chances of being able to get 8 or 9 to equalize? Answer, slim to none. You quite rightly said that you think this does favor vengeurR, and we've been able to see perfectly why. I definitely think it will be a 1-1 here, the final map to decide it, but momentum will be on vengeur's side after a result like this.
Really don't see it happening anymore, not on this map at least. Even if cha1n were to get a frag right now, secure the items, get control, problem is the speed, the mobility. Is just so much faster running Strahd that if cha1n just has to chase him down around this map, vengeurR will be running circles around him, and the only thing that cha1n will be able to really do is set up traps, catch him by surprise, lay an ambush, and that just won't work on vengeurR when he's got a lead like this. So I'm already going to call GG's on this one.
Oh yeah, I think we all are. vengeurR with a dominant showing. Just take a look at some of the stats for those that might be wondering. vengeurR currently sitting on 3,500 damage versus cha1n 1,700. In terms of control, 10 heavies and 12 megas for vengeurR, 5 heavies and 4 megas for cha1n, and everything else has been as you expect. It has just been the difference of items above all else. You know, vengeurR's been hitting great damage. He's been playing flawlessly. I loved the early aggression, even down to the spawn control. I mean, spawn control at this point is one of the things vengeurR is famous for. If anyone that's up and coming and wanting to get into high-level Quake, vengeurR himself actually does a ton of really useful YouTube content, and he actually has videos dedicated to popular duel maps where he goes over one by one where the spawns are and how to manipulate them. So, I mean, he really is putting what he teaches into perfect practice here, in my opinion.
GG's have been called in-game as well. cha1n will be the one to submit, knowing that it is over. Will tie us up 1-1 in this series. Now, of course, it isn't over just yet. The tiebreaker will seal the deal, and that will be, if I'm not mistaken, Awoken, where we get 2 light champions going up against each other. It will be cha1n running Nyx and vengeurR playing the Anarchy.
Yeah, we'll just have to see if vengeurR can do what his Maestro partner could not. You know, the exact same map with the exact same champion. We're going to roll out the final 20 seconds of this map. Have a little bit of a chit-chat. You know, I totally forgot that there was actually an animal spine there, or ribs, or whatever it was up there. Been a long time since I saw the ceiling, so thank you very much, vengeurR, for giving us a bit of a comfortable tour. 8 seconds left to go. cha1n, not right there, dude. We'll never sit down again.
He's taking us through the scenic route, Ketchup, just giving us some of the sights on a corrupted keep. Indeed. Now, final map. Will have the railgun in play once again, and that was decisive for cha1n's victory in map 1. So how will vengeurR approach this? Is he going to try and really deny the railgun, which is something that you can absolutely do on this map? Or is he just, you know, going to continue playing as if that never happened, trusting that he can now rival the pressure put out by the rail?
Up until that final minute where the GGs were called, and we're kind of going to ignore stats after that point, vengeurR did have double cha1n's damage. This was his map. There was no point where cha1n had an inch to come back because vengeurR would just snuff it out. You quite rightly made the comparison to Rafa here, where it's not really about frags at a certain point as much as it is just controlling a lead, and you don't always need to get a frag to have that lead. You can soak up everything on the map, shut down their ability to get anything, and then what are they going to do when the next item spawns? They've got no stack. They can't fight. You've taken all the lights. And now you're on Mega and they're out of position. It's just a nightmare scenario to be in. And on a map like Corrupted Keep, infamous for its snowball effect, that was just a perfect masterclass, dare I say, from vengeurR. As our next map, final stop, we're going into Awoken, Battle of the Lights. That rail needs to be nice and limber, I think, because as you pointed out earlier, on Veil, that rail was a instrumental to the map win that cha1n was able to get. And is it going to simply work the same way? I mean, Awoken has more moving parts.
Curious to see how this is going to pan out. Because Awoken, I think, is widely considered to be one of vengeur's favorite and also his best maps, right? But then last week, I believe it was his matchup against Cooler, where Awoken absolutely didn't go his way at all. It was a surprising result. So let's see how he approaches it this time. Now he has to deal with the Nyx, right? So he's playing against a champion that has massive mobility around several parts of the map, can manipulate the center area so easily from rockets to the center. You can get from the LG up to the platform, so many little things you can do. Plus she has the Ghost Walk as well. So you kind of very often have to kill her twice. First to force out the Ghost Walk, and then you need to be able to track her accordingly and finish her off altogether. So vengeurR definitely has his work cut out for him. But Anarchy is a champion we've seen him do beautiful things with, and I'm expecting to see more of the same now.
I strongly feel like this is going to be a matchup of cha1n paying that close attention to vengeurR. You know, you just look at these champions side by side. Nyx will offer a similar meta to that of a Doomslayer in that there are so many walls and pillars on Awoken that it may as well be a double jump and not a wall jump. Now there are certain maps where that really comes into play for Nyx. I think Blood Covenant tends to be another one where it may as well be a double jump. That means that cha1n is going to be able to play a little bit slower perhaps, and with the noise that Anarchy makes, the fact that vengeurR is going to have that high speed. cha1n already opening with a missed rail, however he does manage to land a second one and a third one. That is potentially a taste of things to come. Third rail to land already and forcing the injection out. That was not something vengeurR wanted to do, he had to do it. Oh my lord.
vengeurR needs to give cha1n respect when it comes to the rail, and I am surprised he started off the way he did. First challenging cha1n while he didn't have a rail of his own, just taking on the fight with a machine gun, and then choosing not to use his injection, not to go for the health bubble down towards the telly, but just push on through. So risky. You know how well cha1n has been hitting, and vengeurR has to adapt to that very quickly.
However, with the sheer amount of rails that have been landing so far, only one frag has been conceded. vengeurR has plenty of time to turn things around, and these aggressive pushes, you go against someone that's rail heavy. If you have enough of a stack to work with, you can push in anyway if you're bold enough. However, vengeurR once again forced to use the injection. That's now 2 injections on this map, and both of them haven't really been by choice. I think if cha1n can keep this assertive style, who knows? Maybe we could see not just one upset from Dramus and Razy, but maybe another in cha1n and vengeurR.
Things have slowed down a fair bit. vengeurR still unable to get a railgun. Finally will secure the weapon. But can he go hand to hand with cha1n? And he's been hitting like an absolute titan. vengeurR hasn't landed a shot with the railgun yet.
I actually loved cha1n's play there, Flea. Really wanted to sit around in that rail battle as long as possible to make sure that whatever he picks up will just undo the rails from vengeurR. I think so many players, you know, they would look at an item and pick it up without question. It's kind of like what we saw earlier. I just love the optimization. You have to make those micro decisions, just keep an item to make that divide even greater, and that's what cha1n was doing with that rail just now. However, speaking of which, vengeurR does get himself some control at last.
Slowly staying in control of that center area of the map. This is how vengeurR wants to play this map. He wants to control the flow of the game, listen out for cha1n, and then pounce. Rotate the items, but just center yourself around that middle part of the map because you've got so many routes to attack from. And then just wait for the right moment. Now cha1n does steal away the Mega. Good plays by the Canadian. There isn't enough of a spread between Mega and Heavy yet for vengeurR or whoever gets in control to easily rotate both of them and incorporate them into the same cycle. So cha1n perfectly making use of that. And now he's the one who actually has the stack advantage.
Next item in play being the Heavy, taken by vengeurR, but vengeurR has not had the most successful rails so far. He really hasn't, actually. Let me take a look at these stats. vengeurR sitting on a meager 16% rail. He's hit 2 out of 12. And with cha1n not having such a problem and they're both lights, I mean, that's only going to go one way. Hello. Goodbye.
Just like that, cha1n. The railgun, once again, proving to be disastrous for vengeurR. Yeah, he tried to even steer out of the way in midair, but didn't pay off in the end, and now he's pushing again, and again it goes wrong.
The push.
That's a repeat of the first frag catch-up. cha1n just going for the heavy with the railgun, and vengeurR pushing him with nothing but the machine gun. And yes, vengeurR gets a good amount of damage with just that starting weapon, but all cha1n needs to do is land twice, and that's exactly what he did.
Especially with cha1n being as rail heavy as he is, the main source of it so far has been just covering his back with the Ghost Walk. You know, so many times you hit a rail, you're just a sitting duck. Nyx does not have that problem. Now vengeurR took away the heavy. That is going to be one small victory, but can he escape? Hits another rail back to back, and he knows he doesn't need a rail for that. Pull out the old faithful. Groovy. Woo!
Oh! Not even the air control could save him there. vengeurR plummets into the icy cold waters of Awoken, and now cha1n is really building that momentum. The spread between the items is nice and wide, and he will be able to secure both of them once more. And vengeurR, like you pointed out, Ketchup just isn't landing the shots he needs to keep vengeurR, or to keep cha1n stack in line rather. Good use of the Ghost Walk as well, cha1n. Very nice variety between evasive and aggressive. Really liking what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, still working on 14% rails, vengeurR so far. Does get some LG. And again, not to be a broken record, but you look at a map like Awoken, it has been extremely one-sided for cha1n so far. However, on a map like this, 4.5 minutes to get 4 frags, you know vengeurR has it in him to do that.
Yeah.
So is that just going to be a first half? Who knows? But vengeurR has been making some rather questionable decisions here. It almost feels like absolute frustration setting in. And if he's missing those rails too, that's just going to make you feel even worse. Oh no, and he's early on the heavy. vengeurR, I mean, things are falling apart for him.
vengeurR is just not taking the fights that are suitable for him. Partly, of course, because cha1n is not allowing him. But if we just look at the weapon usage, Ketchup, cha1n, 2.7k damage. 2,000 of that is solely by the railgun. That really has been his bread and butter this entire map so far. And vengeurR has kind of been playing into it what feels like a bit much. So he wants to just apply pressure, get up close and personal. That's how he wants to play those final 3.5 minutes. And if he does, he really has a good shot at bringing it back. But he can't be roped into taking these railgun fights. Landing another shot, he was still at 14%. Gotta boost that. It's just not high enough to go toe-to-toe with someone like cha1n.
I think nerves of steel from cha1n to just sit there and not let himself be known. But here comes vengeurR. 1,000 miles an hour, and he is working comfortably on a comeback. This change of style to be more aggressive, it is night and day, Flea. vengeurR knows that he's spawning, he is pushing right in. Yes, the rail has been your ticket to success, but let me take the one playstyle that just shuts that down. Point blank in your face. And if I can keep a strong stack, who cares if you hit me?
This is indeed exactly how vengeurR is supposed to be playing this. Now, rockets like that, they are going to help buy cha1n a lot of time, give him a lot of breathing room to secure some weapons of their own. But vengeurR, he is so hell-bent on not giving cha1n the railgun right now. He could have gone anywhere after that engagement, and instead he goes for rail. Every single time it feels like he loops back around to railgun, just to try and deny that. And again, he's going for rail. Yeah, he goes for mega. Doesn't make a move onto the LG yet, but instead back to the railgun. He's trying to catch cha1n out. Both players know that this weapon is about as important as a major item at this point. And they are playing around it.
cha1n is wise to that plan. He's caught on that vengeurR has been living on that left side of the map. So, he spent the entire time getting his basic stack back up on the right, picking up the LG. The question is, what can he get from this? Because without the rail, I do heavily favor vengeurR in these exchanges. Just look at the resources. He's got more stack, he's got injection, he's got all the weapons he could possibly want. cha1n does not want this situation, but is he going to be able to get a rail? He is surviving for now, but the question is how long? vengeurR is outdoing him everywhere else. Can he find him, though? These hourglasses are going to be critical, Flea. A big push, but he's knocked away by the rocket.
Ghostwalk has been used, won't be up for another 20 seconds. This is a huge opportunity. Can he get it? He will.
Okay.
All tied up. This is beautiful. And what a time to get the frag as well. Just before Mega spawns, just before Heavy spawns. He even is able to incorporate the run through Railgun into his trajectory just to make sure that cha1n isn't there doing anything funky. Faking out a rocket jump. Solid plays from vengeurR. cha1n is challenging this, but he doesn't have the stack to fully commit. He knows he will have to give up Mega. He doesn't have the Railgun either, so he can't do save damage from a distance.
I feel like cha1n's goal is going to be, I need this rail. It is critical that he picks one up, but I just don't see vengeurR allowing him to do it. As we go into sudden death, or maybe even now the Heavy's been taken, this is his chance. But he's still expecting it to be shut down. cha1n, in theory, actually would have been able to pick that up. But vengeurR, the one time he actually would have let him take it, cha1n thought he was there. The mind games are real, Flea. Here comes sudden death. The rail does belong to cha1n, but is it going to matter now?
I clenched the moment vengeurR went up that bounce back. That could have gone so wrong, but it won't, and it will be the Maestro man securing the map. In the end, a few seconds into overtime, vengeurR proves his worth once again and will, at the very least, get a 2-1 victory today. That was nail-bitingly close.
Literally one frag. There was one frag in it. But to reach that one frag situation, we absolutely have to give props, I think, on both sides. Humongous props for cha1n for those rails and being able to just match that complete amount of damage. And the fact that he said, right, over 2,000 damage was done with just the rail on its own. But, gotta be said, an even bigger shout out for vengeurR for instantly acknowledging what is going on and how to counter it. Because this was a night and day adaptation and it wasn't even close in terms of the two playstyles. That's a world champion mentality right there. To, in the middle of a map, figure out what's going wrong and fix it and win it in the fashion that he did. That was impressive stuff.
I do think it didn't have to be that close. Yes, vengeurR adapted nicely, but I also think that he could have gone into that one perhaps a bit more aware, you know, thinking back about map 1. Because he definitely did throw away a few kills, just pushing into cha1n's railgun and expecting to come out on top of a fight where his opponent was just landing every shot. So there were a few of those situations where I think if vengeurR had been a little bit more passive and not gone for these fights and then just took the aggression up close and personal as soon as he got a rocket land and LG, probably wouldn't have been as close of a game, but nevertheless very impressive indeed on the adaptation. Nice turnaround, beautiful comeback. cha1n fought like a lion. Map 1 was sick, but in the end it will be vengeurR edging out the victory, so congratulations to Maestro.
You know, I feel like we've been having so much fun here today, Flea, that I've blinked and we've already gone through, what is it, 4 series? Because we have Sparty versus cha1n up next, and it kind of feels like we've only just started the day. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, cha1n and Sparty is going to be the matchup. Thanks so much for tuning in so far. This is the return of Quake Pro League. See you in 5.